There it is. The keys have started. Now, the dungeons are slightly out of sync, but that is A-okay in this format because we have the wonderful ability to actually just compare timers. Key level doesn't matter.
It indeed does not, and with this gear level, 15 should be a walk in the park, at least in theory. You can already tell there's some massive pulls coming out. The US Army off to the races with Bloodlust and everything. I do think they want to skip the tree because you really don't want to play this tree. This guy is annoying as hell. You grab some extra flowers and on the 15, I could see these guys just dragging that into this massive patch of casters around the first boss. It looks good so far. On the other side, the British forces are a little bit of trouble with a full wipe and a reset on that first pull. These guys are not doing too hard at the start.
No, that is not what you want to see right off the bat. The thing about having a really low key level and crazy gear opportunities is it really opens it up for any single mistake to be the deciding factor.
Indeed it does. And I think at this point, while the US Army is cleaning up some of the remaining trash around our first boss, Witherbark here, we can talk a little bit about the comps, because we do have a blood decay on both sides, kind of one of the new favorites of the season. Speaking of which, going down on the side of the British forces, that is of course unfortunate. Going to be the 8th death on the docket and another reset on this poll. These guys are struggling a little bit here with this warm-up key, but of course, luckily for us, it's a best of 3 in this series, so even if this dungeon doesn't get better from here on out, they still have more than ample opportunity to come back.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun start, and this is an iconic dungeon as well to kick off with. For anyone who did not play back in Warlords of Draenor, this dungeon, I think, gave people quite a few different opportunities to have, shall we say, strong feelings. Some interesting skips, some interesting pathing, boss order choices. There's also an extra boss that you don't technically have to do, and that would confuse groups all the time. Luckily, it is not present in the Mythic version that they have brought back for Season 3. But definitely, I think, a beloved dungeon. Some people probably hate it, but I think for the most part, it was a very, very well-received dungeon.
Yeah, mixed feelings, definitely true. Everything else, well, probably really depends on who you talk to. I personally thought it was quite fun, definitely better than Grimrail or whatever it was they brought back for, I want to say Season 2 or Season 1, I don't even remember, I don't want to think about it. So, Everbloom, pretty nice as a healer though. There are some mobs in here that really grind your gears, especially these wasps we see on the British Combined Forces here. Those wasps hurt, and the poison debuff they apply, if you can't dispel that, man, you are in for a world of pain. Well, a little bit less pain than actually face tanking is, it as our the preservation evoker just now was, but yeah, it still hurts like crazy. On the other side, US Army, they're just shredding through that tree slowly but surely. I brought up the comps for just a second. The US Army is running a Holy Paladin, a Hunter, a Demon Hunter, and of course a Frost Mage. Luckily it's not a Sanguini week, so Frost Mage is not gonna get side eyes from the entire group as it did, I think 2 weeks ago. So all in all, first boss down, they're on the road to victory already here in Everbloom.
Yeah, the U.S. Army making a great showing right out of the gate. Now, something for the audience to be aware of is that the affix dungeon combos are static for the weekend, which means every team that plays Everbloom will be playing these affixes, which means we're going to actually get to compare everyone's performance in the same set of metrics. It's going to be really, real interesting. Unfortunately, the British Combined Arms already with 14 deaths stacking up on the clock. There's a lot of pain in this trash. The bosses, I think, we'll see will be relatively straightforward. We knew that Witherbark was not likely to pose a problem. Its mechanics are very simple. But our Archmage Sol is where I'm really looking forward to see how these teams handle and what the tuning is like with the gear level combination, because she was a pain back in the day.
Good old Archmage Sol. Yeah, she is a tough one, especially generally, a lot of the content, not just the M plus stuff, but also the raid, very healer focused in terms of the difficulty level. So Archmage Soul definitely up there, and you just got to be aware of what's coming at you. The combination of elements she is throwing around, be it fire, ice, or arcane, obviously. The fire element in particular, very, very damage heavy on the entire group. So if you're not ready with your heals, even on fortified, this boss is just gonna roast you. But the biggest struggle for groups that are not aware of their positioning, of what they're doing, is definitely the ice, and especially the ice arcane combo. The little draw-in can drag you into the ice orbs and completely knock you out. That's not a position you want to find yourself in.
No. Now, there's still a little ways to go before we get to Sol. We have Witherbark being approached by the British team, and the army is clearing trash on the way to the Ancient Protectors. Interestingly enough, the Ancient Protectors, a somewhat forgettable boss in the sort of realm of Mythic Plus, I think. I often walk up to them and go, oh yeah, this wasn't trash. Oh yeah.
It was until last week. And then you went in here on Tyrannical, and your tank was just getting one shot every single time, even on an 18. It was a nightmare. Luckily enough for us, at least, this boss was heavily nerfed this week, this reset, for the third week of the season. So the tank charge, generally the tank damage, does about 25% less damage now. Makes it actually survivable. You get a little bit more time to move out of the green puddles, and generally, boss is a lot easier now. So we're returning slowly but surely to this basically trash status this boss had back in the day. And as we can see, for the army on this 15, hey, it's basically trash at this point. One of the three already down. We only got Dulu and our good old Watercaster left on the docket, and with those two sorted out, we're already moving on to the mages and the last third of the dungeon.
Yeah, that was an incredibly quick fight. It's a blink and you missed it moment. This is definitely an opportunity to go back and watch the VODs after they're put up on YouTube. Every single match will be made available to our viewing audience, including those that are not being streamed. We have a couple matches in the lower bracket that are not being streamed this weekend, as well as another qualifier that's actually happening right now for final placement in the top 8. So we will have updates for you as those go on, but you are not going to want to miss those. You're going to want to go back later and see what the heck was going on, because these are going to be close fights.
Oh, army going bold here. That's 3 casters at once with the assistance. That's a super dangerous pull. You'll barely ever see anyone do that. Healer down to 0, getting clobbered by the damage coming in. And now, of course, you gotta watch out for the Pyroblast. That one gets not kicked. Our Hunter down to 10%, getting healed up with the personal health stones, whatever they had available without their Paladin around. But it looks like they are actually managing this pull in the end. Great damage coming out from the army on a pull that is deadly, to say the very least.
Yeah, that was a very well recovered fight. I think not quite prepared for the amount of damage coming out on the healer, and they are still running back. It's going to take a few minutes. This is a little bit of a windy dungeon, and unless you've got, a Warlock Gate to skip that hill, it's just an extra few seconds where you can't quite reach your team. I remember so many times that everyone would have to get to this trash and stop and be like, okay, are we all here? Great. And if someone died, it was you're running back to meet them because you do not expect to survive. Teams would stop and check if everybody knew the mechanics. This boss is nothing to sniff at. You can see her over there just on the edge of the left-hand side of the screen being, I'm not quite sure, possessed in some form by the growth that is going to then use her as a conduit to attack the party. Very on brand, I think, for the Gorgrond area. It was a very thematically fun dungeon. And then, of course, they're going for trash first. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. You got about 30 seconds on Bloodlust. You can wait that out, but you can also drag some trash into the boss fight, because outside of the big AoE damage, you can see initial cast obviously just being the fire damage going out on everyone. there's not too much happening on this boss fight at the start and, well, in between those bursts of mechanics. So, grabbing some trash in there, especially on this 15 fortified, where the bosses are definitely the less dangerous part of this encounter. Well, sure, go for it. Next round, fire and ice, a little bit of spice, but everything nice so far with this one. And good old Archmage Soul, she can yell about vines as much as she wants. She's down to 40% already.
That's it, the vines! That's a voice line that absolutely rings in my ears just looking at this fight. You can see not having too much of an issue with her health. We might get one more cycle. Here comes the Arcane, I believe, in just a moment. But probably not going to be another critical overlap. I'm shocked at how quickly she's melting. These guys are bringing damage.
Yep, there's a lot of damage on this, a loadout of party. It's looking really good. The army about to move on to the last boss of the dungeon. Also, fairly straightforward that one, but all in all, a quick run. We're looking at a solid 3 chess timer here. I want to say they will be done in about a minute and a half to 2 minutes, so solid 13 minutes, 14 minutes run. Army starting out strong.
That is a fantastic run. Now, obviously, they have to wait a moment here for the RP while Yao Nu teleports themselves all the way to Stormwind. For Horde players, this is probably your only chance to safely take a look at the beautiful vista that is the human capital city. But as the RP finally makes its way, you can see the flame cast defeat these vines so that the players can just walk forward. Love those moments of just artificial pause.
Well, to be fair, you could have triggered that RP a little bit earlier, save some time, you know. But
they could have.
I'm glad that some of these older dungeons, especially the BFA dungeons, are back in terms of RP. Nothing beats Waycrest and the voice lines in there. It's just so funny.
I'm quite sad that it was banned, but also somewhat expected. I believe in the other game that's being played right now, Waycrest was also banned. So that might tell you something about the affix combo that is running on that dungeon. I've got it right here. For Waycrest, it's Tyrannical, Incorporeal, and Bolstering. So we're thinking that Bolstering in Waycrest is probably scaring off some of these early tokens.
I was about to say, yeah, no, that is a very reasonable thing to do. Bolstering Waycrest is no bueno, and yeah, no, can totally understand that no one wants to go in there. In the meantime, Yao Nu is done, dusted, and bursted so hard with the Bloodlust that they didn't even bother to do the first lashes. We didn't even get a tree, and the army pulling out the victory in the first game here of the night. And with that, moving 1 point up in the series. It's a best of 3, of course, so there is still a potential for the British Combined Forces to come back, but that first Everbloom, rough one.
Yeah, that was rough. Now, obviously, there's no need for the British team to continue, so they will be stopping their key and collecting their next one. The dungeon coming up is, I believe, they did decide to ban Galakrond's Fall. Yeah, Blackrook Hold. And I love this little vista. It's a great shot of the final boss room. A great dungeon altogether.
Speaking of good voice lines, Cortalos, they come for you. They do.
So many great moments. Actually, all of the dungeons in this set had fantastic moments in Legion, so I am A-okay with going back for a couple of visits of the Ravencrest family's manor. Then we will be moving on to Darkheart Thicket, so a double Legion back-to-back, if we make it that far. U.S. Army just had an incredible showing on Everbloom. If they can do the same, and the Brits aren't able to pick up and move, that's it. It could be a 2-0. We'll have to see.
So, we are playing double elimination, so it's not quite over for the British team if they don't pull out another win here. But of course, first round of the tournament, already going down to lower bracket, that's not the ideal position for yourself to find in. Would be pretty good if they can pull it back here on, it's not Waycrest, it's Blackrook Hold, that way around. One is a manor, one is a castle.
Waycrest, I think.
Yeah, I love Waycrest. Then again, I can understand that no one wants to go there. It's just, Yeah,
It's,
a
you
little bit
gotta
of an
think, the odds
uncivilized
are
place.
in
You know?
our favor, okay? There's so many matches. If you haven't already, you can check out the bracket with the commands in chat. Check out the tournament. It'll show you what all the matches are going to be this weekend. And I think with all of them, there's going to be at least one team that's willing to brave the witch's house. I would hope
That
so.
depends. The biggest potential, I think, is going to come at us in the later stages of the tournament when you're facing teams where you already know they are incredibly fast on certain maps. For example, the Army on this Everbloom. That looked basically flawless. So if you're a team that's not that great on Everbloom and you're facing the Army, you could just be like, okay, yeah, we don't want to play Army on Everbloom, so guys, just get that out of here. We'll take the Way Crest instead. It's going to be fine. So that potential always is there. But Blackrook Hold, especially with the affix combination we have, which was, if I saw it correctly, Spiteful, Incorporeal, and of course Fortified, has some spicy, spicy corners, especially the start of the dungeon where you have to deal with the Protectors. If you're deciding to go a little bit bigger, you have the double Protector pack through the Patrol, then of course the mini-boss up the stairs. There is some stuff that hurts like crazy, especially the healer will be super aware of dispels and all the interrupts, everything that needs to happen in the first part of the dungeon. And then, of course, there is everything between first and second boss, all the archers, the scouts with the fan dances, the arcanists that need to be interrupted or they will one-shot your party. There is so much going on in this dungeons, and then we haven't even talked about the bat part that Blizzard also, thankfully, bless Blizzard, nerfed, because you can only get 4 bats focused onto you by the Felguards later on, but it's still a painful, painful piece of dungeon that you need to go through.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes made to some of these older dungeons. Perhaps not a lot, but I think enough to bring them up into the Mythic Plus sort of ecosystem and have them feel good, especially with Throne of Tides, which is in the pool right now. Definitely some changes made there. It's going to be good to see. If you haven't actually run any Mythic Plus yet in Season 3, we're only a couple of weeks in, it is possible. This is a great way to just get your eyes on these dungeons and see what's changed, because it won't be the same as you remember. Now, both teams are readying up at the start of Blackrook Hold, and they should be starting any moment, Liffy. So let's hop in and take a look at them.
Surely is going to be an intense matchup. As a reminder for everyone just tuning in, the US Army is up 1 point in this best of 3. A little bit of interface adjusting here. I love all those little positioning markers here for the Elf UI that we have going on. But other than that, both teams seem to be ready, as mentioned already. The first pull of the dungeon already gets pretty spicy, so I'm very curious how the Army and, of course, also the British Combined Arms are gonna tackle that part.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting opener. We definitely don't want to see a massive slaughter of deaths, but this is also a unique section of the dungeon. It's a different boss, I think, than a lot of the others later on. A forgettable boss, perhaps, but definitely a fun one. You can see there, the keys are getting loaded up. I'm ready to get this rolling. It should be Fortified, Afflicted, and Spiteful, I believe is what this should be. I think we're just waiting for the background to update. There it is. There we go.
Always good to have a priest in your party for this one, and they, the Army at least, did swap their healer from a paladin to, I would assume this is a disc priest, which gives you the option next to your Blood Decay tank to mind control one of the Incorporeal ads, which gives you the wonderful, wonderful opportunity, instead of having a 50% or up to 100% reduced damage done and healing taken debuff on yourself, to get a 10% damage reduction on the enemies. And that's just a very, very lovely thing to have. But off we go to the races. Into the first poll we go as the Army looks to go absolutely ham. Right side, not necessarily the polls you go for, at least I've not seen this season, but it is gonna work out, I am sure of that. You can see the damage already going out, popping Bloodlust into that one, definitely a necessity. PI, everything and their kitchen sink thrown at this pole, while on the other side, the British Combined Arms, they are going a little bit slower, step by step, playing it safe with these packs that are absolutely deadly.
Yeah, it is off to a great start. I love when all the big damage happens right early, gives us a good feel-good moment that you can then use to kind of springboard your team's momentum, give you that feel-good, yes, we can do this push. I find dungeons that have a bit of a run at the start can really feel low energy and can have a big, I guess, psychological impact on the players themselves. So I love it when we have this opportunity. Already on the first boss is the U.S. Army. They are wasting no time whatsoever, and the amalgam is slowly melting.
Yup, a little bit of a training dummy to start this dungeon off. Not really anything this boss does outside of dropping some puddles, throwing a scythe or two at you, and then dying, basically. On Tyrannical, though, well, if you let a soul through, you better have a group-wide damage reduction and an AMZ available, otherwise you'll get one shot. So this boss has its ups and downs, and the downs is probably the more important aspect on the side of the army. As the ads are coming in, they're just straight up ignoring them. You'll see the DK Mass Grip being utilized in just a second here to delay everything a little bit more. Nice Frost Nova to just root everything in place, but I'm not sure. Did the boss just absorb a bunch of the souls? It doesn't look like. The damage not high enough to be dangerous to anyone. Down goes the amalgam, and the army off to the second boss already. Actually, oh, they're backtracking to the trash to grab some more percent. Interesting. That means they're also looking to skip some trash later in the dungeon.
Definitely not what I expected. I'm going to definitely be going back to watch that one, because if the Brits picked that up on the way and have no need to run back, that could be a few seconds saved there. I'm really intrigued. They're pretty much neck and neck. Obviously, the British team did start just slightly behind, so you need to keep an eye on those dungeon timers. But I'm surprised. What do you think they're going to skip later? I'm trying to picture what that route might look like, but
that's a great question. Also, a little correction of myself. It's not incorporeal that we have here as the second affix. It's afflicted. Very similar, but still very different. You need to CC or interrupt a spawning ghost, otherwise you'll be in a world of hurt. No mind control going on, though. In regards to the trash, you could, in theory, I think, skip the pack of Night Elves just past this set of spider stairs. That is notoriously annoying to deal with. You can't really skip the Bat Gauntlet. You could skip a bunch of the guards after Smash Spite and before Corthalos. Could maybe just invis through there. That's the only things I can imagine. The rest of that, I mean, there's the gauntlet with all the demons before the stairs with the bats. That also could be a target.
Yes.
Everything else is kind of gating you in terms of roleplay, and you need to kill certain mobs to even open a door.
I think in an ideal world, the ads to skip would probably be the rolling boulders, but I don't believe that's an option that these teams have available to them.
No, the boulders not really. And there it is. Yeah, they're skipping this initial Night Elf pack here at the stairs. It's a spicy one. It has a bunch of archers, has an arcanist, a guard captain. It's like everything in there that you hate to play. So you definitely can understand that, a little bit of a trade-off with the trash at the start of the dungeon, and now we're going into the arena here. Everything grouped up nicely, and the Frost Mage is just gonna have a field day. Then again, the Frost Mage not even top DPS here. It's the Demon Hunter and the Hunter just utterly annihilating this entire pack. And here we go. little bit of a throwback to good old Legion strats, because there's another set of mobs spawning or jumping down from the balconies right after you clear this one. If you stand behind this pillar, they all get grouped up nicely, because they don't have line of sight on your party and just group up at the pillar running towards you, making them super easy to deal with. You can just AoE CC all the fan dances, all the weird arrow barrages that are coming out. Very, very nice strat that survived back from the Legion days. The only one I'm a little bit sad about that we're not seeing here is the mage spellsteal strats from back in the day.
That's a pretty good point. Now, we know everyone's kits obviously have changed significantly since Legion, but you still have the core functionality required to do a lot of all the old stuff. Maybe, you know, there's always a chance. We've got a lot of players in the pool who started playing in Dragonflight or started playing in later expansions. It's possible they don't even know about it.
Yeah, that's one thing. The other thing is a dead healer, which is unfortunate. They tried. Oh, the mage released. Okay, a little bit of a run back. That's okay.
They did pull the boss as well and reset it, so I'm thinking that's probably why the release.
Yeah, the problem really is that they don't have a res unless they want to expand the combat res, and that's probably something you want to save for later, because there are more than enough parts of this dungeon that can turn very spicy very quickly. So just a quick run back. Gonna waste a little bit of time, but I think they can afford it. If we're peeking over towards the British Combined Arms, they are just up the spider stairs past the first boss, and now facing on the Knight of Pack that the army just skipped out on. And you can see, already one dead. There is so much damage coming through. This is a nightmare of a pack to play, and they are struggling with it here for a moment.
Yeah, British Combined Arms definitely taking advantage of the deaths on the army side. Army deciding, okay, let's be a little bit safer. Wait till everyone's here and pull again. Get everything down. But the Brits have 2 deaths, which is not what you want. You mentioned how difficult this pack is. Another down. That's going to probably be a full team wipe at this point.
You can tell. Arcane Blitz 5 stacks. So a definitive lack of interrupts on the caster there. Definitely something that happens really quickly. Once you start losing 1 or 2 players, suddenly there's no interrupts available after the first 2 or 3, and then the mob starts free casting. And with the Arcanist, 1 cast, you can survive that. 2 casts in a row, you're probably gonna lose someone, and 3 casts in a row, he's definitely starting to one-shot players. So that is a rough spot to be in. Not much you can do there. Once everything starts to unravel, it's just a tough situation to be in. But they're running back, they're regrouping, and they're going at it again. A little bit of a buddy pull here going on before the tank was able to come in, but with a deep breath, they should be able to get everything under control. Now everything nicely clumped up on the carpet here. Just gotta get everyone to line of sight. The Hunter taking so much damage, dying once again. Unfortunate situation. Not much the healer can do there with the line of sight going on. Everyone funneled into this choke point. The damage is insane, but you can see defensives going out. The breath of a life coming through, and they are just trying to pump all the damage out. As the Spitefuls are coming through, you definitely don't want to face tank any of that, as one by one, all the Warlocks fall. The next Arcane Blitz, once again, killing off the healer. You can tell the British forces struggling with that one. In the meantime, the army just cleaning up Elisana Ravencrest for breakfast.
That's definitely it. They are making their way now up to Smash Spite the Hateful. He just hangs out on that little terrace over there, but you have quite a bit of trash and running to do before you can get through. Health getting a little bit lower. Sometimes on these inverted UIs it is tough to tell, but looks like everything is okay, and the group is going even bigger, pulling more ads down the stairs. But doesn't look like they're struggling too much. They have lots of AoE. The mage is doing an incredible amount of damage. Ooh.
This is definitely one of the dungeons where the Frost Mage is just gonna come in so insanely handy. Especially this part, the pack of small demons they just cleared out. they're basically non-existent if you can slow and kite them properly. And you definitely are able to do that with a Frost Mage. So for the army, having the mage in the roster here, just a pure and utter blessing to clean this one up, and that's why they're all already done. Same for the Bat Gauntlet. You can just root and CC all the bats that would be so troublesome otherwise with the Frost Mage. It's gonna be a cakewalk for this team. Usually, you pull 2 of these Felguards, kill them off, then go into the next pack. On the 15, I could see these guys just pull the entire gauntlet out onto the terrace, avoid any further bat spawn, then kill them off. This is bold and can go very, very wrong if you do not kick the Fel Frenzy.
Yeah, this is clearly something that needs to be practiced in advance. Luckily, the teams have known about their matches and the dungeon affixes for quite a while, so they've had that opportunity. But just look at that. How many of them actually made it out of the gate and onto the terrace proper? Basically nothing. That was a massive amount of damage. Are they going to pull them straight into the boss? They just keep creeping over.
Oh, slowly but surely, there's a little bit of kiting involved because of the spiteful affix there. And there might not be anything that really gets dangerous to the army in this dungeon so far. If something is gonna kill you, then it's the spiteful ghost, because those things do so much damage, you really don't want to face tank any of their hits. Now we're on to Smash Spite, and this guy does basically exactly what the name says. He is just smashing everything in his vicinity, which basically just reflects in a big charge, a big stomp after the charge, and, well, of course, you got some fell bats flying around the outside that are just going to draw some lines across the canvas, which, well, in an ideal case, you place them properly, because otherwise they'll just clog up your entire floor, and at some point you'll get knocked back by the stomp into the fell lines and die. But we're talking about fortified, so this boss is kind of, yeah, a pushover, you know?
Yeah, he's melting away, and then we get to go to our favorite friend. We don't have game sound just at the moment. I believe that's going to get fixed before the next match, but the iconic voice line, which you so wonderfully did yourself earlier.
I can do my best to impersonate.
Perfect.
When
we get there,
I've heard this way too many times back in Legion, and now that it's back, I'm glad, but it's definitely one of the better ones. And of course, you head into the guards, and generally these guards are not as dangerous as they used to be. And once you hit these stairs, then it's definitely time for the voice line, because Artosius is gonna say, "Cortalis, they come for you. They do." And it all grouped up. Back in the day, it basically would have been a death sentence, because these guys hit like trucks. Nowadays, your blood decay is just gonna say, can you like scratch that spot on my back? Yeah, awesome, thank you. And then that's gonna be it with this pack. So, pulling everything to the boss room, you just throw in a frozen orb there, you just blast away all the Fingers of Frost procs that you get, and everything is just gonna die. The mage was this 400, 500k DPS on a plus 15. Spiteful Ghosts in there as well. Cleaned up nicely, and we can head straight into the boss fight.
I'm just watching this, and these timers are so incredibly fast. The Brits still struggling to make their way up to Ileana Ravencrest. 23 deaths is quite significant. I don't know. There's a lot happening here, but the army, if this is how they're going to perform all weekend, they have a shot. Coming up on Cortalis, it's odds-on going to be a win here for the army, which means they will move on to play against Ukraine, who had an incredible showing in the previous event. That could be a very, very close run. I believe that's coming up next. We're just looking at the schedule for later today. Games were originally scheduled 2 hours apart to give teams time to let them get set up. But if all the dungeons are going to run this quickly, we may need to reevaluate.
Oh, it certainly seems so. Yep, these dungeons go by quick. There should be a sub 16-minute clear here for the army. Actually, now that I'm looking at Antolias here a little bit more in depth, he's already down to half HP, so this is more likely going to be a 15... well, actually, his laser phase takes up quite some time, so probably a 15-40 run for the army, but basically 30 minutes to clean up the series. That is an impressive performance by the army to start the day out, and definitely a statement towards the rest of the teams in this tournament.
Yeah, they have come out swinging. I think they knew their performance in the spring was not quite what they wanted it to be, and have now decided to just show up and say, we're going to close out the year by proving why we deserve to be here. Look at that incredible timer, 15:49 to complete Blackrook hold, Lithy. That's a lot.
Wow. No, that's not a lot. And that's the exact point. They are fast as hell.
That's right. It's literally the opposite of what I said. You are 100% correct. It's a lot for me to like process that dungeons can be done that quickly when you have the skill, you have the gear, but it is factually not a lot of time. You are right.
No, it's an impressive performance by the army, by the U.S. Army squad, but of course on the other side also big GGs to the British Combined Arms. They put in a hell of a performance, but few points they were struggling with the fortified trash in this dungeon. Cannot blame them. It is a difficult one to deal with, and of course for the Brits it's not quite over there yet. They will go down into the lower bracket and await their next matchup, but they certainly still have the opportunity to come back in this whole tournament. And hey, if there's one thing I love about double elimination, it's the potential for the lower bracket miracle run, and I would love to see that.
Absolutely. You can see here our bracket. There is one more spot available in the top 8 that will be being fought out for by the Marines and Regiment a little bit later today off stream. By the time we come back, we will know what is going on. And just like you said, the beauty of this being a double elim over the course of the weekend means that there's every chance for a comeback. It's not just a one and done. It's best of 3s all the way through. We got a best of 5 grand finals. There is a lot more action coming your way. I do know that we need to go and have a break because the next match is not scheduled to start for another hour, Lithy. That was so fast. We have more than an hour before the next match. I mean, if you haven't already, grab yourself some lunch and settle in for the rest of the day because it's going to be, if they're all like that, I'm going to have a great time.
Oh yeah, a great time, a short time sadly, but with the amount of matches, hey, we got more than enough action for the entire evening, for the entire weekend, because this isn't the only day of the AFDL. It's going to be a blast, and I can't wait for the next one.
No, I am super excited. We have tomorrow, we have Sunday, all weekend long. There will be action coming to you from the AFDL Twitch channel, and we look forward to having you. I think we're going to go to a break because I don't think you and I want to sit here for a whole hour. I don't know what we'd even talk about for an hour, Lithy.
Yeah, I mean, we could podcast a little bit, but I'm not going to complain about a little break. We'll see what the teams are up to and how quickly we can get them into the dungeons, and then we'll see. It's going to be a fun time, so definitely stick around. We're going to be back in just a few minutes.